We appreciate you coming in to see the Alzheimer's and Dementia series for this year. This series of programs is part of an ongoing collaboration between the Williamson County Public Library and the Alzheimer's Association of Tennessee. And we have a few resources in the back, including some library books, some information on our memory kits, which are kind of some multimedia packages for memory care and kind of some different activities for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. And we also have some light refreshments in the back. And we appreciate you coming to the program today. Our next program will be on October 28th at 1:30, and that will be covering exploring care and support services. Today's speaker has over 20 years of experience working with older adults and family members of people with Alzheimer's and dementia, especially to help with caregivers and the like. She is a caregiver support coordinator with the Mental Health America of the Mid-South, as well as a certified dementia specialist with Positive Approach to Care, and recently has completed her certification for the PESI Geriatric Care. And without further ado, here's our speaker, Lynn Wood.
Hello. Now this thing is going to bother me. I'm going to be worried about it the whole time. This is for television back there, in case you're wondering. Let's see, I walk around when I talk, so let's see. They don't usually give me a microphone. I'm kind of loud anyway, so everybody can hear me all right? Has anybody been to this seminar or this series before when I spoke? Oh, yay, all right. So, well, thank you so much. I am with Mental Health America of the Mid-South. We're a nonprofit organization, and I am a certified dementia practitioner, and I work solely with the caregiver. I don't ever meet the person with the diagnosis. My job is to, what are you feeling? What are you dealing with? How are you interpreting behaviors? And then how can I help you with new tips, techniques, redirection, appropriate activities, caregiver support groups, just whatever you need as a caregiver. And my services are free. My Mental Health America, my program is completely grant funded. And if you want to meet with me one-on-one, we can always do that. And I've brought some information up, but business cards, so you can always reach out to me. And I serve 13 counties here in Middle Tennessee, and I serve 4 in West Tennessee. So I'm pretty much tired all the time. So just in case anybody's wondering. So, but I love my job. I have passion and I have joy every day. When I work with the caregiver and I teach them something new, give them a better way of trying to do an activity with a loved one, and they say, oh, I don't dread going home. I feel like I can do this better, at least today. Or, oh, I never thought of it that way. Yeah, that's good. I can give them 2 choices, and that way they're not wrong, because I'm going to give them 2 options that are easy for me. But that person that's living with the dementia still feels like they're in control, because they're deciding for themselves as an adult, you know, what they want to eat, or what they want to wear, or what shoes they want to put on, stuff like that. So that's what I do. And we have a 6.5 hour training, and this is part of that training. Now, you're not going to be here 6.5 hours. So I'll just go ahead and let you know that. But we're going to talk about navigating the dementia behaviors and the communication strategies. And actually, we're going to flip it a little bit, because before we can redirect someone who is having a behavior, a hallucination, or they're shadowing you, or they're repeating the questions, before we can redirect that behavior, we have to be able to communicate with our loved one. And everybody in the room, I'm going to assume, understands that their reality is really not reality. It's not our reality. If someone with dementia says it's raining outside, we're not going to convince them that it's not raining until we walk them outside. And then they're like, oh, well, I must have just stopped then because I know it was raining. And what we tend to do is we tend to argue. We try to rationalize with someone who has a dementia diagnosis. We try to convince them that we're right and they're wrong. And all that really does is it exacerbates situations, and it just makes the caregiver tired. You know, you're wasting time and energy on does it really matter? And so when we look at some of the behaviors at the part of this, my question is going to be, does it matter what they're doing? You know, it's kind of like children when we raise babies. You know, we pick and choose our arguments, right? You know, my son got his shoes on. They were the wrong feet, but he was very proud of himself, and I didn't fix it. I just let him walk around with shoes on the wrong feet, because at that point, it was a win for me, because he got them on and he put the little bunny ears and he tied them, and he was, you know. So we have to look at those behaviors when we get to that, and do they really matter, or can we just let them go? Because that's just going to be stress relief for us if we let them go, if we let the behaviors go. But there are some things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how the language and the brain, how it changes, because I firmly believe that if we understand how something works, then sometimes it's a little bit easier to accept what's going on, if we can recognize what's going on. There are some communication do's and don'ts. There's 2 pages in here, so when we get to that, if you want to take a picture of that, that's fine. You can take a picture of all of this if you want. But we're going to talk about visual and audio changes that are going on, what changes in our brain, and then using the senses for communication and that behavior redirection. And at the end, we'll really look at a lot of the behaviors and what are those folks trying to say to us with those behaviors. So if you're not new on this journey, then you know that dementia is an umbrella term, and there's a lot of diagnoses that go under that umbrella. But people with dementia have difficulty expressing their thoughts and their emotions, but they have more trouble understanding others. One of the things that we know about communication with someone, when someone is learning or aging, they are taking data in with their senses. The 5 senses that we had when we were in elementary school. Do you know what those are? Let's go back. What are those 5 senses? Seeing? Hearing. Yeah? Smelling. Yes? Hearing? Tasting. Yes. The main and the most data-driven sense is visual. So that person who you're interacting with may not understand what you're saying, but they're watching your face. They're watching your mannerisms. If you are irritated, if you're sad, if you're angry, does that show on your face? I'm a terrible liar. I cannot lie. I have a tail. I don't know what it is. My husband will not tell me because he says, I don't need to tell you what your tail is because now I know the tail. So I always say, and my boss, I'm more likely to tell on myself before anything else because it's too much work to try to remember what you said and to who and so, but if you're frustrated, if you wear your emotions on your face and you're providing care, then your loved one's going to pick up on that. And they're likely to then mimic your emotions. And if you wonder about that, tell a joke, or if you rock them into an assisted living or a senior center or whatever. And I don't know how many times I've walked upon folks in memory care and everybody's sitting there laughing and nobody knows really what they're laughing at, but somebody said something that was funny and one of the caregivers started laughing and then nobody wanted to not be the one to get the joke, right? How many of us in here have laughed at a joke that we really didn't get? I know I've done it. I was just like, oh, okay, I don't get that, but that's hilarious. I'm going to remember that one. And I go home and I ask my husband, what does this mean? And he's like, don't remember that joke. Don't remember that joke. Don't do that. Don't tell that one to your parents. You're crazy. But they're looking at the behavior. They're looking at the person who's laughing and they want to laugh too. when we talk about providing care one-on-one with folks, when I teach in-home caregivers or adult day stay care providers, I always say, make sure you check yourself before you provide care. Because if you're not coming at it with a great, accepting attitude, understanding where you are with the journey, then you might send the wrong message. And so, and they're adults. You just can't rush right in and start doing something to somebody. One of the main things that my training is through, PAC, a positive approach to care, that's TIPA Snow. Does anybody watch TIPA Snow videos and stuff like that? So I went to Chicago and got trained. And the motto is you want to do something with the person who's living with dementia. Don't do it to them. So that way they feel as if they are in charge of their being. When we look at what changes in the brain, the frontal lobe is where our filter is. We know those folks, right? They have no filter. They just say whatever they want to say. And we say, well, my mother-in-law, she's 89, and she's going to say it. She's, I've earned the right. I've earned the right. No dementia, 89, no dementia diagnosis at all. So there's no cognitive decline. But we do see that folks lose their filter, and they may say whatever comes to mind. And we also have some very commonalities with a dementia diagnosis, which is that difficulty finding the right words, using familiar words, repeatedly inventing new words. The other thing we see is that everything becomes whatever it is. So if we pick this up, somebody with an Alzheimer's or a dementia diagnosis, this might be sitting right in front of them, and they go, well, hand me that glass of water. Hand me that glass of water. And we as caregivers are, there's not a glass of water. I don't see a glass of water. It's right there, that glass of water, I want that glass of water. And it's whatever is holding water becomes a glass. They might be talking about a bowl. They could be talking about a casserole dish. Whatever holds liquid could become a glass. We see things that are bowls that are not really bowls, but they could be cups and saucers. They could be jars, and they're calling it a bowl. And we get hung up on the right language. We want to correct, and we want to say, my dad does this. It's a bottle of water. Say bottle of water. Ask me for a bottle of water. And I'm like, by the time she says it, she's not going to be thirsty anymore. So give her the bottle of water. What does it matter what she calls it? But we get hung up on that. With caregivers in community settings, we see a lot with writing utensils. Somebody might say, hand me that pen, hand me that pen. And on the table is crayons and chalk and markers and highlighters, but no pencils or no pens, whatever they're asking for. And the caregivers are like, we don't have any pencils here, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, just hand them something. They just want to write. Let them write. So we have to broaden our senses when we're listening, and we have to listen more with our eyes. Let's listen and let's look at what the scenario is, and let's look at what's around us. What are they wanting to do? They're wanting to write. It doesn't matter what the utensil is. The ultimate goal is that's what they want to do. This person is thirsty. Doesn't matter what the water is in. Let's give them that water. One of the things that we know for sure is that in our temporal lobes, that's right here, and this is our frontal and our temporals, we can assign different behaviors to different sides. So right here where it says using cuss words, that is held on our right side of our brain. So the right side is rhythm, RR. That's where prayer, poetry, music, swear words, sexual innuendos, all of that stuff lives on the right side of our brain. On the left side of our brain is formal communication. Nouns, adjectives, adverbs, things like that. So we see someone who forgets what this is, because that's a noun. So they might assign a cuss word to this. So has anybody ever said, Nana never cussed a day in her life, and now she cusses like a sailor? Well, because this is, it's hand me that, well, I want that beep thing. And this becomes the beep. right? And so then we're like, Nana, what are you doing? You know, but that noun left her, but that forbidden language, that foul word sticks around. So we see that. We have older adults who were preachers, and I had a really sad story. One time a lady called me and she said the church just really embarrassed my grandfather because it was so many years that he had been a preacher. And they called him up on top of the stage and said, I think your very first sermon here was Jonah and the whale. And go ahead and tell us that story and that biblical, you know, the meaning and all of that. And let's talk about that. And before he got done, we were on Noah's Ark, and we had a prodigal son going on with Jonah's whale. And then there was the resurrection. There was a whole lot of stuff going on, because he couldn't keep the story straight in his mind. And so we see that chain of event changing. And I said, next time, ask him to lead the prayer. Because he can say a prayer. We can all say, you know, God is great, God is good. Let us thank him for our food. Amen. They might resort back to that, but they can still offer that prayer, because that's going to stick over here. So let's not get so excited or so stuck on when somebody, and now I figure that when I get a dementia, I figure I'm going to be running around with no clothes on, cussing like a sailor. That's what I figured. I've already got a long-term care policy, and I've already told my son and my husband, okay, just let me be. That's all you got to do. If I'm happy, let me be. But we're looking at the changes in the brain mean that person is interpreting their visions and what they hear differently, because the brain is actually shrinking. With someone with a dementia diagnosis, the brain is shrinking and the lobes of the brain are pulling away from each other. So where it's really quick for my brain to tell me to stand upright and to come over here and press a button and to hold the microphone and know what I'm going to say, as that dementia takes over and as my brain might start deteriorating and shrinking, it's going to be harder for me to multitask, for me to do all of those things that I need to do. And what we have to do as caregivers is we have to understand that cognitively, your loved one cannot adjust to you. The brain is dying. There's 4 truths that we know about dementia. You know, it's progressive, it's going to get worse, there's no treatment really, and it's terminal. Their brain cannot adjust to us. We have to adjust to them because we have the cognitive ability to do that. That's why we learn, and I teach new tricks and new techniques and new ways to interact with someone, of giving directions so that we can meet that person where they are. And then you don't always have to be right. Just let it go. I know you're right, and you know you're right, and there you go. So it's just easier. And again, we don't want to get bogged down into the small everyday things. We want to look for successes. We want to set our loved ones up for success. So when we're communicating, or earlier when I said we got to set that positive mood, we have to make sure that we limit the distractions. It might be that we turn off the television. Let's turn down the radio. Do we have to close the curtains or shut a door? Something like that. One of the things that we know is that the brain ceases to be able to compartmentalize. So think right now, if you attend a worship service. If you don't attend a worship service, think when you went into Target last, or Walmart last, or you went into a Texaco to buy some peanuts and a Coke while your gas was pumping. There's a lot of extraneous noises going on. If you take a church setting, you got an elder handing out bulletins, and maybe the piano's playing and the teenagers are whispering or talking. The children might be running around. Grandparents are trying to get mints and everything out, ready to go. And we can tune stuff out and just focus on the music. So when the music is over, we can say, amen, Miss Barbara, because that music was great and we've knocked out everything else. When we go into a restaurant, you can still go out to a restaurant with someone who's living with a dementia. But having that person seeing the hostess and the waiters and the busboys and all the people going back and forth and the children, that's too much. So if you go out to eat, have your loved one just facing you and a wall. That way their brain doesn't have to try to compartmentalize because it can't anymore. We can compartmentalize. They can't. We know auditorily where the understanding of language is, it shrinks. It's really kind of fat like this, but then it shrinks. But the hearing, if you're looking at the hearing lobe, it's above it, and it doesn't really change much. So the person is still hearing you, they're just not understanding what you're saying. And what I've seen happen is that a family goes out and spends, $4,000 on a pair of hearing aids, and the person says, well, these things don't even work. I still can't hear worth a darn, and sets them down. Well, because they're hearing, they just can't understand what's happening. So we have to make sure that we are setting that mood, we're getting their attention so that their brain can only focus on us. The other thing that we have to do when we communicate with someone is make sure that we're stating our message clearly. There's a lot of words that mean a lot of things, and you and I can say the same thing in 4 different ways, and we still know what we're going to say. As an example, if you go in to tell your loved one, all right, let's put your socks on. Once you get your shoes and socks on, we'll be ready to go. Don't you want to go? You need to put your socks on so that we can leave. We're going to be late. The gist of what I wanted was what? The socks need to go on. The socks, get the socks. But I've added new words in there. And so now the person who's listening to me, put your socks on. Then when I come back, if you get your shoes and socks on, now that broken brain is like, wait, there's shoes? Wait a minute, hold on, what am I doing? Then it is gonna be late. Wait, there's just too much. So what I encourage folks to do is that underlying thing, use the same words to repeat your message at least 3 times. Put your socks on. Put your socks on. Put your socks on. Because that person who's having a cognitive disability, that's having to work to understand what you want, they might be getting every 3rd word or every 2nd word. So it may take 3 times to get the full, oh, you want my socks on. And then you can move on to shoes, and then you can move on to jackets and things like that. So we want to, don't rephrase the question. And you have to give one task at a time. I worked with a lady one time. I have a piece of my work that's called a caregiver conversation. And it's a one-on-one meeting where I meet with a caregiver. And what is happening in your house? And she said, I just want him to take a shower. I just want him to take a shower. And I said, okay, well, tell me what you do. And she said, well, the other day I said, honey, go upstairs, change your clothes, take a shower, and come on back down and we'll have breakfast. And I said, sounds logical, very chain of event. She said, I went upstairs, the water was running, he was standing in the middle of the room naked. 45 minutes. He got up, and he got undressed. The water was on, but then what do? I said, so now what did you do? And she said, well, the next time I said, go upstairs, take off your clothes, then get in the shower, then come down and we'll have breakfast and we're ready to go. And she went upstairs and he was standing in the shower with the water running, but his clothes were on. And I said, all right, what are you going to do next time? She said, next time I'm going to say, let's go upstairs. And we're going to go upstairs. And then I'm going to turn on the water and I'm going to say, take off your clothes. We get to a point to where we have to just give them one task at a time. They can still do it by themselves. He could still remove his clothing. He could still turn on the water. But that event, that chain of actions changes. And we need to adjust with those changes. So we need to ask simple questions, use visual prompts, don't change our verbiage until we are like, they're not getting it. And that's this here. Listen with your ears and your eyes And, when the going gets tough, distract and redirect. Somebody who has a broken brain, somebody whose brain is dying, they can't do a lot of things at one time. And if we can go all the way back to what I said about music, let's start singing Amazing Grace, and maybe you'll be able to get shoes and socks on. Or they'll start singing with you, and that brain is achieving that goal. So you might be able to do incontinence care while that's going on. I teach that, and I've seen it work 100 times in care settings, because the brain is so happy it's doing something successfully. And the idea of what's going on down here is not a problem. So how do we meet that person where we are? And can we just break things down into steps so that they get it? Because the longer they can do for themselves, the better it is for us. And I want everybody to understand also, there's a big difference between can't do something and won't do something. Love my mother to death, no cognitive decline, but she can, but she won't. She won't. She has said, I'm not doing it. So what do we have a Hoyer lift now in my mother's living room so that my dad can get her from place A to B, because it hurts. She's had 3 strokes. It hurts, and I'm not doing it. The first time I went, not the first time, but one of the times I went over, I had to have a real come to Jesus meeting with my mother. My mother's had 3 strokes. She had her first one in 2008. She had 2 more in 2012, along with a heart attack and various other things. And I went over to give my dad a break, because that's my job. I'm the tertiary caregiver. Everybody's like, oh, you're taking care of your mother. I'm like, no, I'm giving my dad a break. Because if something happens to my dad, I have to take care of 2 people, and I am way too selfish. I do not want to take care of 2 people. So my job is to keep my dad healthy. And I came over and I got my mom ready and washed her hair, gave her a wash rag, a toothbrush, all this stuff. And she goes, I said, what are you doing? She said, the thing right there, I said, okay, let me tell you something, Mama. If you can feed yourself and you can wipe your own behind, then you can brush your own teeth. And when I said that to my dad was like, well, she can do that, can't she? That makes perfect sense. It's like a light bulb went off. She can comb her hair, she can brush her teeth, she can put on her blush, she can wash her face, because she's got one good hand. So it was easier for my dad to do it and get it done and move on than it was to let her achieve those goals. And so we have to remember, let's really watch what can our loved one do, because it might not happen to you, but it might happen to where that person that you're caring for can't brush their teeth anymore. It may not come quickly. Maybe you just have to put the toothpaste on the toothbrush. So there are things that we can do, and we can break those chores down. We want to use certain words. Don't say, don't you remember? If you've heard me before, I might have said that before. Don't say, don't you remember? One of the key things that people say is, where is my mama? Where's my mama? And what caregivers tend to say is, don't you remember your mama passed away? Now let me ask you something, or tell you something. If somebody's asking you where someone is who's not around anymore, obviously they don't remember that person has passed. Because if they did remember, why would they be asking you where they are? Right? Where is my home? Where is my home? Obviously, they don't remember that this is their new home, because if they knew that this was their new home, why are they saying, where is my home? So we have to say, I'm not sure about your home. When was the last time you were there? What's your favorite place? What's your favorite thing to do at home? Or, I don't know where your mom is. What color was her hair? Let's ask those questions. Did you and your mom ever go out for ice cream? Let's get them off of that horrible topic of maybe re-grieving. And I've seen this a lot recently here, probably within the last 9 months, of families who have lost children My mother and father lost a child, and if they had a dementia and started living in the past where that child was alive and now they're asking, where is that child? We don't want to say, don't you remember Shannon died? Because they don't remember, because they're looking for Shannon. That's my sister's name, who'd passed. So you have to think about what they're asking. We don't want them to re-grieve. So Shannon's a mess. She's out there getting into trouble somewhere, which I believe she's in heaven running around getting into trouble doing something up there. So we have to change our perspective. And we can say, tell me about, did you ever, something like that. But the remember word, if you have to use the word remember, just assume the answer is no. And don't even ask. Don't even ask. And maintain your sense of humor. This says right here, I don't know if you can see it. They're doctors, and the caption says, and that is why we lift on 3. Because you can see there is no body. And I was just talking to my husband before I saw this. He said, well, let's do it on 3. And I said, okay, like on the word 3 or after 3? Like 1, 2, 3, go. And he was like, on 3. And I was like, so 1, 2, go. And he was like, this should not be this hard. I just want you to help me pick this up. So, but we have to communicate. So maintain your sense of humor. I do this for a living. I say I have joy every single day. Not all day, every day, but every day when someone says that this has helped. But you can laugh every day or you can cry every day. And you may do both, but try to look at things with delight, with happiness, that things that can be achieved are being achieved. There's a new way of doing something. You discovered a new way to get somebody in the shower, something like that, right? So that we can remember the good stuff. At the end of your journey, there's going to be a loss. Your loved one's not around anymore. The journey will end. We know that. At the end of your journey, what are you going to remember? Are you going to remember when there was stinky because they wouldn't get into a shower, or there were crumbs all over the floor because they couldn't hold the spoon anymore, or how many times you had to clean the bathroom because a husband's aim wasn't good anymore? Or are you doing things during the day to build memories through activities and being together, so when your job is over, then you can sit back and you can go, he told me all these stories about his mama and all the ice cream that they went to get. I have books. There are books out there that are about activities to do with someone. They don't have to be right. They don't have to be, like science projects or anything. Some of the best projects that we have are putting photos in photo albums. Doesn't matter if they're if they're chronologically right, if they're upside down, if they're backwards. It doesn't. If one trip to the mountains is with the trip to France, it doesn't matter. They're putting pictures in. It's hand-eye coordination, and with every picture there's a story. And you can share those stories and share those memories. And we need to know some of those activities, because when we get into those behaviors, we can use those type of activities to redirect a behavior that we don't like. We get lost in time or place. Does it really matter? If someone's saying that this story happened when they were 47 and you're sitting there going, he was 56. He wasn't 47, he was 56. Don't listen to him. He says he was canoeing down the Colorado River. That is not true. He was on Old Hickory Lake. Don't listen. The time and the place doesn't matter. They're remembering, they're reliving something. So just go with it. It doesn't really matter. And if you are living with someone like my dad, he tells stories. Does anybody have a parent or a loved one who still tells stories all the time? All the time. I've heard these same stories since I was 10. And I listened when I was 10 because I was like, man, my dad is the best. He can do anything. because he was telling me stories of how great he was and the jump shots that he made and the lives he saved at a car accident on Gallatin Road or whatever. Then I kind of stopped listening because I was like, yeah, you're a hero. I got it, Dad, right? Now in my adult years, I listen differently. I listen to the stories to see if the beginning, the middle, and end are the same. They are the same. My parents, 85, my mother's 83, no cognitive decline. We're not supposed to get dementia. Lots of people have it, but the majority of us don't. So just don't cough memory lapses up to dementia. So I listen now to see, are the stories still the same? And if there's a change in the story, does he catch it? Because he's caught it before and he's come back. Hey, I told you that story the other day about Sonny, and you know what? We weren't on this lake. We were on this other lake, and that boat was green, not blue, with sparkles. So he caught himself, right? But I'm listening to those stories to see, is there a decline coming? Is there something going on? Because at his age, there's not a decline. So if the stories start changing, there's something else going on. There's a delirium, there's an infection, maybe his medications are a little wonky, maybe he's not eating well, he's malnourished or dehydrated. There's something going on that has caused this slight little change. And we have to be aware of our loved ones so that we can catch up on those things. Now get your phones out, because these are here's the lists. This is communication dues. If you are so inclined, you can email me. My business card's up here, and I'll be happy to send you a very pretty picture of it, your own copy that you can print off. We have to change the way we communicate. So call the person by their first name. Use your own first name. If your husband called you Ladybug, then refer to yourself as Ladybug. Walk on in that room and sashay up and say, Ladybug's here to help you get a shower. And let them know who you are if they've gotten to that point. We've already talked about giving one simple task at a time. Hug them, hold their hand. We know that even someone with a mental disability craves human touch. Yeah, you're caring for them, but they're still your loved one. Hold their hand, stroke the hair, pat the knee. Watch your tone of voice. Remain calm. Whenever possible, allow that pacing and walking. I had a lady one time, and she loved her sister. She said, I'm taking care of everything. My sister, she doesn't need to do anything. And I said, well, do you let her do anything around the house? She was out in Eagleville. She said, no, She said, I don't let her do anything. I said, she just sits here? Yeah, she just sits there. And she left the room. And the sister said, all I want to do is polish the silver. That's all I want to do. It's not like that's going to take a lot of work. And so when the lady came back in, I said, let her clean out a junk drawer. Let her polish the silver. Give her the lamps to dust. If she can't go to the stuff on the shelf, bring that stuff to her. You got to remove it anyway to clean it. You might as well remove it and put it in front of your loved one. Give them a cloth and let them go to town. Give them those activities and things to do so that their day passes and they can feel like they're contributing. So find those activities and encourage that exercise. And avoid vague words. Now, I'll tell you a good word that's a vague word that will work every time, and you can write this down, it's not on the list. The word tomorrow. Do you know what? Everything is possible tomorrow. Tomorrow I might fly a plane. Tomorrow I might win the lottery. Tomorrow they might find a cure for dementia. Tomorrow we can go visit the old house. Tomorrow we can go see our children. Tomorrow I can take you to get ice cream. Tomorrow we'll go to France. And what happens when tomorrow gets here? There's another tomorrow. Tomorrow comes all the time. So you can just say, oh, did I tell you that? Oh, well, yeah, we're doing that tomorrow. I think I told you we were going to do that tomorrow. Instead of saying, no, we can't go to France. You don't have a passport. Now you have to have a little star and a driver's license. I don't have that. I'm not going to go stand in that line. And what do you want to go to France for? The last time you were there, you were in the war. That's just ridiculous for you to want to go. That's just too much. That's just too much. And that man, he wants to go to France. Maybe that sounds like a wonderful idea. Let's talk about that tomorrow and see if we can't start making plans. But before then, can you help me with putting photos in a photo album? Or polishing the silver? Something. So these are your do's. Now what happens is, we spend a lot of time doing the don'ts. We expect the answer to our questions to be accurate. We expect the answers to our questions to be accurate. Did you have lunch today? Of course I had lunch. They didn't have lunch. Or you might say, what did you have for lunch today? What does it matter what I have for lunch today? You didn't have to cook it, you didn't have to clean up for it, and you didn't have to shop for it. So it doesn't matter what we had for lunch. What did you have for lunch? What that tells me as a professional is they don't remember if they had lunch. And it's easier to redirect and to be angry than to look at someone and go, you know what, I don't actually remember if I ate at all. So don't expect the answers to be accurate. We get irritated when they ask the same question over and over and over again. That repetitive questioning, that's the worst, isn't it? When are we going to the doctors? Do we have to go to the doctors today? When are we going? When are we going? We have to not give them pre-notice. Tell them that you're going to the doctors the day of the doctor's appointment. Or say, oh, I don't know when we're going. Let me go find that out for you. But before that, can you help me with? And let's substitute an activity. We fuss at them, we give them a lot of responsibility, we might raise our voice, and as a caregiver, we try to do it all by ourselves. How many of us have had those people that come to us and go, let me know what I can do to help you? Do we ever call them? Do we ever say, can you take my car to get my oil changed? I'll tell you what's happening. And we have some how can I help cards that I made that we've made and copyrighted and all that kind of stuff. And it's how can I help? And there's pictures on it. Grocery store, taking stuff to the dump, car repair, lawn maintenance, respite services, whatever. Because here's my theory. I will help anybody do something. I will say to you, let me know what I can do to help you. And I'm waiting on you to tell me what you want me to do, and you're waiting on me to tell you what I'm willing to do. And at the end of the day, nobody does anything for anybody, right? So now these cards, and you can make these up at home, get you some index cards, and what do you need help with? And when somebody says, let me know what I can do to help you, you can say, pick a card, any card. Here you go. One of those cards in there is go grocery shopping. I'll tell you right now, I will not grocery shop for anybody. I don't know if you like green bananas or yellow. I don't know if you like big boy tomatoes or do you like the little bitty ones. I don't know if you like Publix brand beans or do you want Bush's. It's too much. I don't even know what I have in my cabinet. I will take all of your cars at some point and get your oil changed. Now, I'm going to play with your radio stations. I'm going to move your mirrors. But that oil is going to be changed, and that's going to be something off your to-do list. I'll haul stuff for you. I might go through it, see if there's something I need to keep. Right? One person's trash is another person's treasure. You don't know, but I can do that for you. But later on tonight, make you a list. And put those on the bulletin board or in a fishbowl or on an index card or email me and say, send me those cards. And I will send you those cards so that when someone says, let me know what I can do to help, you have something for them. And I tell you what you're going to learn. You're going to learn who wants to help you and who doesn't. Who's just saying, let me know what I can do to help you. Because when you say pick a card, any card, they're going to say, I don't have time to look at those cards right now, but I will get to those cards. And now you know this lip service, right? Don't try to do it all by yourself. The other thing with language, does anybody in the room have a loved one who is bilingual? We've seen now as people go back in time, if English is their second language, they revert back to their native language and they can mix the two languages together, English and Spanish, English and Japanese, whatever. until we might just be totally back in that native language. So if that starts happening, you just know you're moving into another space. You're just moving into another realm. So there are some absolutes. I think this is from the Alzheimer's Association, actually. We don't argue, we just agree. Agree and move on. Big deal. You know, we need to go, it's raining. So I don't want to go. Okay, well, I didn't want to leave the house anyway. You say it's raining, I say it's raining. No trip to the grocery store for me. Don't say I told you so. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I said that. We're going to go later on today at 2. Don't command or demand. Ask and model what you want. You don't lecture, just reassure. These are things that are negative that set us up for failure as a caregiver, because we're working with an adult and people want to be treated with dignity and respect. You know, the worst thing it is especially with me, where I work with families, and they'll say, my daddy will not listen to anything I say. Well, of course not. You're not supposed to know more than your father. I don't know how many things. The Hoyer lift, the transport chair, the rollator, the potty chair, the adult depends, the in-home PT-INR machine, the PureWick system, all my ideas. But the home health person said it, or the person at the hospital said it. And when he got his transport chair and he could just move that around willy-nilly, I don't know why you didn't tell me about this. This is the best thing since sliced bread. I could have had this 5 years ago. And I just was like biting the inside of my cheek going, I know, but I'm not supposed to know more than my daddy, right? It's easier for us to stranger. And we're in the South. We are nice to strangers. We'll tell a complete stranger, that is a gorgeous piece of jewelry. But then our loved one is like, why are you wearing that thing? That's a beautiful piece of jewelry, but you need to clean it before you wear it again, because you're going to get smudges on your shirt. We are brutally honest. We'll pass gas in front of our loved ones. We'll burp. We go to the bathroom with the door open, right? We don't do that with strangers. We're nicer to strangers. That's why a stranger can get your loved one to do something that you may not be able to do. There's no shame in having somebody come in and help, because they're just different. They're just different. So we want to remember that there are losses when we're communicating with this broken brain, this brain that's dying. We lose immediate recall. We lose attention to specific information. We might have recent events. We might get mixed up on relationships. I've counseled a lot of families who were on, first, second, and third wives, and that husband is now calling wife number 3 by wife number 2's name. I had a really bad one time. I had a lady, his wife had an affair. Her husband had an affair, and they were she called me just in tears. They were at Sam's, and he wanted to buy flowers. And she said, this is so nice. You want to buy me flowers? He said, if you could just hold on to them, I need to make sure that I get those to Claire. Claire was the person he had the affair with 30 years before. Oh, boy is right? And we had to talk through that. Where is he living now? How did you handle that? And you can't fuss at him at the side in the middle of Sam's. I'll make sure that they stay fresh. And then I referred her to a counselor. I said, I don't do that kind of work, but there's unresolved issues. But it's think about your lives with your loved ones, right? I mean, who knows what's in those closets, right? There's skeletons in those closets. And one of the things that we're working with now, just like the death of children, is I don't have any trainings for it, but I can refer someone who's in a same-sex relationship, and then someone who is now going in the past, and they're not outward now with their sexuality. So now they're like almost back in the closet. How do those family units work? And again, I don't deal with that. I refer them on. But those are just things that we've seen with this disease, with this illness called dementia, because it can play a lot of dirty jokes with us. And we keep the arguing. We're going to argue. And you're not going to win. Just agree and move on. Motor memories. Do you know what motor memories are? That's eating. That's walking. How many of us have driven somewhere? I've done it. And you get home and you're like, how did I even get home? Which way did I go? Did I even get on the... What did I do? Did I pass by Sonic? I wanted to stop. And we just go. Our brain just goes. How many of us make recipes now from memory? We just know how much salt goes in and how much sugar goes in. So there are preserved abilities, and there are things that we know that we lose. We have to be able to communicate with someone so that we can manage the behaviors. And there's a lot of behaviors. And the way that it works on one day may not be the way that that behavior manifests the next day. We also have to make sure that we're managing ourselves, because it takes two to tango. If everybody gets upset, then nothing's going to get done. And remember what I said, who has the cognitive ability to adjust? We do. The person we're caring for does not. So we have to be the one to make those changes. Dementia is damage to the brain, and it changes the way they see and the way they hear. We know vision changes, depth perception changes. We say stuff is right in front of you, it's right in front of you, it's right in front of you, and no, it's not. These ladies right here are right in front of me. If something was on the floor, somebody would have to say, look down. Then I could look down and make sure I don't step on it. We see people shuffle their feet. Why are they shuffling their feet? If they never pick up their foot, they're not going to step on something. So my foot's just going to stay on the ground all the time. Some behaviors are anxiety. Some behaviors might be due to medications. Some behaviors might be an attempt to communicate. Are they hungry? Do they have to go to the bathroom? Are they in pain? Are their shoes too tight? What, are they too hot? Are they too cold? What is going on? So we have to recognize what some of those behaviors are. Now, if you are in the home where there is hitting going on, then it does you no good for me to say, well, only 32% of the time is someone violent or is someone aggressive like that. But these are just some generalities. We don't see it across the board. We see the temper outburst, and we see the demanding and the critical. That's high because at a certain point during the process, somebody knows something's not right. Somebody is sitting there and is thinking, now this, I could do this before. I could get this open. Or they'll open a piece of mail. I mean, like, now, do I pay this, or do I file this, or is this junk mail? I don't know. Let me just sit it here and wait and see. It'll come to me. And then when it comes to them, then they got a stack of mail this high because it hadn't come to them yet. Or we ask them questions that they don't know the answers to, even though that we think that they do know the answers, like, have you eaten? And then they have outbursts. We see people throw stuff because they could open that jar before and now they can't. And they just toss it over to the side. They could start the roll of toilet paper and now they don't have that dexterity anymore. This one's broken. I need another roll of toilet paper. You got 3 rows right here. None of those are working. I need a new row. Well, we just have to start it for them. So we have to recognize what's going on. Wandering is a really good example of an Alzheimer's type dementia. We see wandering, even if it's in a house and around from room to room to room. I had Miss Sue one time, and she just walked in a circle around a community center. She didn't want to go anywhere. She was perfectly safe. She just wanted to walk. So we see wandering, hallucinations, delusions. These are some of the common ones. And again, if you're having these, then let's ask some questions. You know, if there's some delusions or hallucination going on or an outburst, what happened before that behavior started? Where in the room was it? Who was there when this happened? What happened after the behavior? And then think about how we handled it. What did we say? What did we do? Were we in a hurry? Were we trying to demand more from our person than what they can do? A lot of times that person wants something. They need something. And we always want to rule out pain first, right? We love our folks. We don't want anyone hurting. We don't want anyone in pain. So watch the body language. Gritting of teeth. It's a good indicator that something's not feeling about right. Constant moving. We see that rocking back and forth, Sleep patterns. Are they crying? Will that person move? Or says, I'm not moving. My mom, I'm not moving. If you want me over there, you need to hook up the machine and get me over there because I'm not doing it. Now she'll do it when a home health person comes in. When Jennifer comes in and says, all right, Miss Mary, let's stand up and try to walk. Oh, yes, let's. And she gets right up. And my dad will say, oh, we can do that tomorrow. And then my mom goes, no, I don't think so. So anyway, love my mother. So these are things just to recognize. Let's rule out the things we can rule out first, right? Are they hungry? Do they have to go to the bathroom? Have they already soiled themselves? Are they thirsty? Let's rule out in those pain issues. So with all of these behaviors, we can use an activity to redirect from them. The wandering, so I'm just going to go, there's no more slides. We're going to talk about each one of these. And then if there is something, if your home has sexual misconduct in it, call me and we can talk about it. If your home has got a lot of hallucinations, let me know. And then I can give you resources and tips for all of these of how we outsmarted. Have we outsmarted somebody from wandering outside the house? Yes, we have. And how we do that is we add a lock to the top of the door or the very bottom of the door. A learned behavior at 4 years old is where your doorknobs are in your house. Every one of you right now can take me to your living room and put me in front of the front door and say, get out, and I know right where that doorknob is. And there's probably a deadbolt right above it. That's just a behavior that we grow up knowing. We adjust to that. We don't adjust to a deadbolt or a chain being up here at the top of the door. So somebody tries the door doesn't open, and they wander away. Then we can go over and we can undo the lock and we can go, oh, it's time for our walk now. I don't know. The door must have stuck. We can keep them in. Another way is black rugs. Black on a floor looks like a hole to someone whose vision has changed. There's a depth, well, now this is normal aging right here, I can assure you. Depth perception. Perception is the word I was looking for. Depth perception changes, and so we see those eyes see something black. They may have cataracts or whatever, but they see that black, and I don't want to step on it because it's a hole. So they go around it. So we can put those rugs in front. Rummaging. So we can outsmart wandering. There's things that we can do. The other thing about wandering is right now, a couple of weeks ago, it was 100 degrees. And what's inside your front door? I got a coat rack. Guess how many coats are on it? 7. Wool and hats and gloves and everything. Well, if I have a cognitive decline and I see a door and I see a coat, and so I want to go, because that's what happened. We put on our coats and we go. It's something as simple as moving the coat rack away from the side of the front door. There are now things that you can put on the back of a door. It can look like a bookcase. It might look like a bay window. It might look like a garden area, something out there so it doesn't even look like a door. We see that happening in some senior living communities. So we can put things in place because we want to age in place. We want our loved ones to age in place. If that's what we want, we can make that happen. If you want your loved one to age in place and die at home, we can make that happen. We can't do that 2 months out. If that's what you want, then we need to talk about it now. And let's make sure that all the plans are ready so when we need the hospital bed, we know who to call and get it. When we need incontinence supplies, when we need a Hoyer lift, when we need those things, because that's the goal of the family, then that's very doable. My father-in-law just died at home. My mother-in-law has told me she wants to die at home. I have told my husband, do not let me die at home. I do not want to be at home. So whatever is the preference for somebody, we can make that happen. But we got to know about it. And if you're seeing some of these behaviors, they might get better, but that just means the progression of the disease has moved on from a middle stage to a late stage. Rummaging. Rummaging is the best activity. How many of you have junk drawers at home? I have 4. I have 4. And I have given people junk drawers before and said, if you can find me that blue ink pen, or my glasses are loose, can you find me that little screwdriver and put that junk drawer in front of that person? Come back 40 minutes later, they're still searching and liable to look at you and go, now what am I looking for? Nothing, you're cleaning this up. Somebody made a mess and you're cleaning it up because it was time for me to go. So I was able to meet with that family member one-on-one, talk about that person who's sitting right there, but their brain could not do 2 things at one time, so their brain was focused on what they could achieve, which was looking through that junk drawer. Then it was time to clean up. Hand-eye coordination, work that brain, good exercise. When he got finished, he said, I am hungry. He hadn't asked me for anything to eat in 2 days. Well, we've worked him. So gave him some cheese and crackers. So use rummaging. Now you don't want them rummaging in a tackle box with all the hooks, right? We don't want somebody rummaging in the sewing box that's got all the needles and pins, but they can organize the threads by colors, right? They can take the buttons and put them all, the white ones together and the black ones together or whatever. We can use that rummaging. My mom has a drawer. And like I said, she doesn't have dementia, but I asked her to find me a slotted spoon one time because she was trying to help me cook. Now, my mom has got expressive aphasia due to her strokes. So she knows what she wants to say, but she can't say it. So she was trying to give me instructions on how to make a chicken noodle casserole. And it was just coming out about tuna and the barn, and it was purple, and you have to do that thing over there and make sure that other thing over there is just fine. And I'm like, I need a slotted spoon. So I gave her a drawer. It had 8 pizza cutters in it, all of them the exact same. But she found all those little, y'all remember those, I don't know who did it, but who made them, but they were green corn on the cob holders. So your butter didn't get anywhere. And then she had the little doodads that go in the end, right? So my mom, who has no cognitive decline, I just needed her to not bother me while I cooked dinner for her because I was giving my dad a break so he could go eat a bucket of balls. And I came back in there and said, we need to clean all that up. And she looked at me and she said, and there you go. She had found all 8 of those little green things, and she had put all the little corn cob things in there. She found my baby spoon. She found my little silver cup and everything. She did an activity. She was more alert that evening than she had been the evenings before because her brain had worked. So the rummaging is great. Aggressive hitting, kicking. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't do that. We don't do that. Just walk away. You know, you don't want to say, why are you being so ugly? They don't know why. They don't know why they're being ugly. You know, so we want to stop them. And we say, no. You know, I'm sorry you don't want to do that. I'm sorry that this is bothering you. I'm sorry that your shoes hurt. Something in order to break that behavior. Hallucinations, and again, I have worksheets for all these. If y'all are so inclined, you can let me know. Hallucinations are senses. So you can have a visual hallucination, you can have an audio hallucination, you hear somebody, you can smell a hallucination. Somebody said one time that they pulled the fire alarm in the assisted living because they could smell smoke. Well, the house wasn't on fire, the assisted living wasn't on fire, so they, we just, showed him around the room and showed him around the place and said, no, the house isn't on fire. But we don't say, oh my gosh, we have to be careful if the house is on fire. We don't want to get hurt, because we don't want to feed into a falsehood. So how do you respond to hallucination? You can say, I'm sorry, I don't see that person. If they see bugs on the floor, if they see pigs flying, if they smell the house is on fire, or they hear voices, say, I am so sorry, honey, but I don't hear them. You hear them, and I know that's troubling for you. But I don't hear you. I don't hear them. Or I don't see the person that you're seeing. I'm going to make sure that we lock up really tight. And those could be from medications. It takes 4 to 6 weeks for the type of medication to get into our system. For someone who is having certain types of behaviors, if your person isn't sleeping well or isn't eating well or is getting agitated, some of those medications take that long to build up. And once you hit the efficacy, if you go above it, then you're going to see that exacerbation of behaviors. That says to me, we need to back off a little bit, and then I refer you back to the doctor. And that's why those doctors might start you on a medicine and say, see us back in 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks. There's a method to their madness. Sometimes there's a method to their madness. Delusions are falsehoods. I'm the Queen of England. I'm the Chief of Police. I own this. You can take whatever book you want out of here. Don't worry about checking it out, because I own this, and I'll remember that you have it. And if somebody stops you to try to make sure you check a book out, I'm going to be irate, because they work for me. How dare them stop you? You're my friend. Take whatever you want. Those are delusions, those false beliefs. Paranoia, you're stealing from me. You're taking my money. You're hiding my good clothes. You want to put me somewhere. Paranoia, you're poisoning me. I don't want to eat this. It tastes funny. You're poisoning me. Well, as the brain deteriorates, our taste buds die. Sweet is the last taste bud to stick around. So if somebody never put cream or sugar in their coffee, now they want 3 sugars and a little bit of creamer. It's because they're not tasting the coffee anymore. Now they're tasting the sweet, because that taste buds have died away, or not as receptive as they were before. So now food might have a metal taste to it. So of course you're going to think you're being poisoned, because this doesn't taste like tuna fish casserole or tuna casserole or whatever. This tastes like metal. Could also be a side effect to a medication. So you want to write these things down so that you can talk to the doctor about them. Depression and dementia mimic each other. There's a lot of the same behaviors. The thing with depression is you don't want to get up and go. And the thing with dementia is you don't know that you need to get up and go. So sometimes a doctor might say, well, they just have dementia. Well, maybe not. Let's rule out the things we can fix, because we can fix delirium. We can fix depression. We can't fix dementia. So if you're in the doctor's office and this is a brand new diagnosis and that doctor says, well, your husband's just got a little touch of dementia, then I would encourage you to say, why? What makes you think that? Maybe he's depressed. Maybe it's the medication. Maybe it's something else. There could be 120 some odd reasons why someone might have a cognitive decline. Getting dementia is not a part of normal aging. If you don't remember anything else from today, dementia is not a part of normal aging. We are supposed to slow down. We are supposed to have to backtrack before we find our keys. We are supposed to have to look for that recipe to make sure if it's a tablespoon or a teaspoon. We're not supposed to get dementia. We are supposed to slow down for driving. We are not supposed to take corners at our age on two tires at Mach 40. We are supposed to slow down before we make a right-hand turn. My mother-in-law got to the point to where she said, I only made right-hand turns. I left my house and would go 3 miles out of my way just so I didn't have to turn against the oncoming traffic. And you know what? That's not a bad idea. So, things we can fix. Repetitive behaviors. One of the tips for repetitive behavior, and also repetitive questioning. Is that on there? Repetitive questioning. Change the visual for your loved one. If you're sitting just like this and you have a repetitive question that's going on and on and on, I might come to you and say, can I show you this over here for a minute? See if you can help me get this working. And I might bring you over here to see if you can get this back in the holder. And then when I take you back to your seat, I might sit you down right there. Now you've changed the field of vision so it can stop that mouse wheel that person is on with that repetitive behavior. You can say, hold this for me, hold this cookbook. Can you open this jar? Will you hold my purse? Something to stop the brain from fixating on whatever it's fixated on at that moment. That repetitive behavior, we can stop it. We just have to replace it with something else. Eating problems, there's medications to stimulate eating. There's medications to decrease appetites. The two on here, again, if it's sexual misconduct, not sleeping, y'all let me know. Those are things. Shadowing, it drives us crazy, right? Because we just want 5 minutes to ourselves, and yet our loved one is following us all the way everywhere. Give them something to do. Give them an activity. Give them something to do so that they're not following you around. And also think about it this way for me. If your loved one is shadowing you, you're their safe person. They trust you. They believe in you. They know above everything else, you're going to make sure that they're okay. They may not know what they're supposed to do next, but if they're with you, then they're going to be all right because you're their person. And when you look at it that way, they're not trying to get on your nerves. They're just saying, I don't know where I am, but as long as you know where I am, I'm all right. And I can't let you get out of my sight because if I get out of your sight, you might forget that I'm in here, and I can't have that. So we can give them something to do again. Refusing to shower, that's a big one. Turn the water on. Turn the water on in the shower, put all the stuff in the bathroom, and then go to your loved one and say, started to shower for you. What'd you do that for? I believe you just asked me to do that. Did I misunderstand? I think you asked me to start the shower, so I did that for you. That person who has some memory loss, they're not going to remember if they asked you to do that or not, and they're not going to want to argue with you, and they're not going to want to be wrong. So they're more than likely to go, thank you so much, I appreciate that, and go get in the shower because they don't know they didn't ask you. You can just start the shower. Your shower's ready. I didn't want to take a shower. You told me you wanted to take a shower. I just started it. Because why would they start a shower unless you asked me to do it? We could do that with a lot of stuff. Put food down in front of somebody. Don't ask your loved one what they want to eat. They don't know. You can give them two choices, fish or chicken. As long as you can make one of them. I had a lady one time, she asked her mother what she wanted to eat. Her mother said turkey and dressing and cranberries and pumpkin pie and rolls. And I said, Alicia, what did you say to your mom? And she said, Mama, I said it's 8:30 and it's 8:30 in the morning in August. We can't have Thanksgiving. And I said, what did we learn? She said, I learned not to ask my mama what she wanted to eat unless I was prepared to cook it. Because it was an hour and a half conversation about why she couldn't have Thanksgiving dinner at 8:30 on an August morning. So think about it. Think about it. But let's just put something in front of them. Why did you make me this? You said you wanted it. All right? Just answer the question. Why did you do it? Because I love you. I wanted to do something nice for you. There are ways to handle the behaviors, and a lot of them do involve giving that person something else to do. If you reach out to me, I've got 10 pages of activities that you could do. And the trick is to have that activity basket ready so that you don't have to say, hold on a minute, let me go find you something to do. You can just say, you know what, I need you to fold these towels and put the laundry basket in front. Men want to help. If you say, I'm sorry, men, I'm just going to apologize right now. If you add the word, honey, can you help me? You got a man. Honey, can you help me with this? They're going to want to help you. That's their job. They're the men. Honey, can you help me open this jar? Now that jar may not be needing open, but it takes their mind that, can you hold this ladder for me while I change the light bulb? I can change that light bulb. No, honey, I just need you to hold it because you're stronger than I am. So can you hold the ladder while I change the light bulb? Because we don't want him changing the light bulb. Honey, can you help me? It's a wonderful phrase. Honey, can you help me tomorrow? And I'm telling you what, I've been married 7 years. Honey, can you help me all the time at my house? I'm prepping. I'm prepping for when one of us has dementia. That's what I'm doing. I'm getting ready. And I also took the time one time to, at a conference, the whole give somebody choices. I had an hypothesis. I tried it. My theory is that whatever you offer that person last is what they're going to pick. So I tried this with my husband, and it worked. So I said, do you want spaghetti or you want red beans and rice? And he said, oh, red beans and rice. And a few days later, then I said, do you want chicken or meatloaf? Oh, a meatloaf would be good. So I did, and then I went back. He always picked the last thing I offered. So when we have a short-term memory, do you want fish or chicken? Chicken. Because maybe their short-term memory is already gone, that they don't remember the fish part, right? The trick is make sure you got fish or chicken in the house. Whatever they want to eat, you need to make sure you can prepare it, but give that person some options. If you are so inclined, this is how you find me. Again, I have business cards up here. This is an evaluation, so my boss will know I didn't come and go through your purses and, stuff like that. I have some things up here like caring for an older adult. It's some of the things that we talked about already, just very simple little tips and techniques. Quotes for caregivers. There's the holidays are going to be coming, so there's one up here about coping with the holidays. We can't do holidays the way we used to because somebody who has a dementia might become overstimulated. And then they're like, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be here. Because it's just too much for them. So we might have to change the way that we do holidays and things like that. And so feel free to take what you want. And again, if there's something that you don't have, I have a whole stack of cards here. And I'm happy, and my services are free.